Esports. Sports that... we all know what it is. It's where millions of people around the globe gather together to fill stadiums to watch their favorite teams sit on their asses and play on a computer. Doesn't Twitch let you do that for free? Alright, enough beating around the bush. We all know that esports is one of the biggest things in video gaming. When a few people say a few controversial words that may or may not get them cancelled on Twitter in a video game, you know it's right to be used as a competitive sport. And there are plentiful. Counter-Strike, Over My Fanbase watches Street Fighter, League of Legends, Rocket League, and so much more. Now you may ask, why am I talking about this in a Resident Evil video? Resident Evil is a spooky. It isn't causing assholes online to hurl slurs at each other? Well, you may be right, but you're wrong. Because you have to remember there was a period with Capcom pre-Resident Evil 7 where the franchise still had a little bit of an identity crisis. But before we look at the game that's the topic of today's video, here's a little backstory. Once upon a time there was a game called Resident Evil 4. Everyone loved this game. Then... the fog is collapsing. The end. Yes, I've talked about this extensively in my last video on the Resident Evil 4 remake, but as a little quick summary, Resident Evil 4 decided to take the horror route that made the series famous to begin with and said... no. So instead they decided to favor more suspenseful action. Obviously, since Capcom were secretly Call of Duty fans, they decided that this is the direction that the series needed to take. This led us to way more action-oriented releases in the series. From main entries like Resident Evil 5 and 6, all the way to spin-offs where action was the primary focus. These spin-offs led to the creation of Operation Raccoon City in 2012, which was a co-op focused action shooter set during the events of Resident Evil 2. This game was in the same vein, in my opinion, to something like Left 4 Dead. People like Left 4 Dead, Left 4 Dead has zombies, Resident Evil has zombies, so I suppose that was easier to put together than it is to solve a second-grade math problem. But if you look at reviews, yeah, nobody liked it. Which, taking that negative reception to heart, Capcom decided 4 years later to try it again and released Umbrella Corps, a game that tried to advertise itself as the next big game in esports.
Obviously, winning this first round is going to be big.
Right, Elf separates early, Owl and Hawk are swinging out west side, and we've got Eagle going it solo through the ventilation.
Yes, Capcom thought that this was going to be the next Counter-Strike, the next Call of Duty, the next Cooking Mama. And if we also take our very cool research over to Wikipedia, I think they did a stinky. Umbrella Corps is considered to be one of the biggest piles of shit to ever bear the Resident Evil name. Hence why it doesn't bear the name, hence why it's only called Umbrella Corps. From stuff like performance issues to matchmaking just not working to the fact that this game looks like it was made on Unity. Oh, wouldn't you look at that? This was the final nail in the coffin for the series till Capcom decided to hit the reboot switch a year later. So why is it that I'm looking at this game today? Because I figured that some mental scarring would be fun. I was just curious to see how this game would fare after a total of 7 years since its release. I bought this thing way back in 2021 on my PS4 with the intent of only making a video on it. And then I blinked, then it was 2 years later. So what better time than now to have a go at it myself? Is this game really as bad as the majority of people say it is? Or were they just too blind to see the gloriousness of a game that nobody asked for and everybody got and no, they were right? So right off the bat, I'm not even gonna try to beat around the bush with this one. I've played some shit in my time, but Umbrella Corps is one of the worst games I think I've ever played. Don't laugh when you see that low number on Metacritic. That's not a rating, that is a warning. This is one of the worst running, bullshittiestly designed and pointless games I think I've ever played in my entire life. And I've played the apparent worst games in this franchise before. Survivor was just boring at worst. I like 6 and I thought Operation Raccoon City was decent. But Umbrella Corps has nearly made me have a fucking aneurysm from how terrible this is. So if I already spoiled my opinion on this game so early on in the video, then I'm really sorry, get the hell out. But now, because I am a good YouTube, I think it's about time that I actually explain why this is the case. But before I even think about doing that, let me first give a huge thanks to today's video sponsor, Factor75. Are you a person that likes to eat food? I would certainly hope so, but if you're far too swamped with all kinds of work and other activities to make yourself something good and don't want to run the risk of eating unhealthy fast food, well then Factor75 has got you covered. For those of you who don't know, Factor is a food service that delivers ready-made chef-prepared meals straight to your doorstep. All of Factor's meals are designed by dietitians to ensure that every meal is up to the best best nutritional quality. And their menus are updated weekly and include around 27 plus meals and 34 plus add-on options, which is more than 33, so you know it must be good. And on top of that, there's absolutely no prep involved, meaning that you messy cooks can breathe easy. I know, I speak from experience. Factor even offers meals for those looking to follow a certain diet like keto, low calorie, or vegan and vegetarian lifestyles. And speaking of the whole no prep thing, Factor's meals are so simple to get ready, you'll have a good nutritious meal in just 2 minutes, which is less time than it took me to play through this game, so you can't exactly go wrong there. So if you're looking to get cooking, that rhymed, and you want to try Factor out for yourself, use my link or head on over to factor75.com and use the code FACTORS33011 to get 50% off your first box. And that is definitely a code. Thank you to Factor75 for sponsoring today's video, and let's head on over to something that won't hopefully cause me to need a comfort meal. The game starts off in, you guessed it, the main menu. And yes, I made this exact same joke in my last video. I'm so funny I should have a spot on Laugh Factory. But before we even get to the menu, we actually got some updates to the game. There's a new mode called For Survivors, plus a range of new icons, whatever the hell those are, and weapons and equipment. Yay! And for a moment, I thought that this last sentence meant that they were still working on this game 7 years later and that it still wasn't finished. Might as well slap early access on this game's Steam page, why don't you? Alright, cool, here we go. So we get the options of online, tutorial, the experiment, re-net, credits, and language. And you can bet your ass I picked that one first. I always wanted to play Resident Evil in Spanish. Alright, so seeing that this game was entirely online focused, I suppose we should head to the online mode to see whether or not we can get a match. And we get the choice between 2 different modes. So let's try team match first. Alright, let's just try and wait and see if it'll create a lobby for us. Aha! I expected as much. This entirely reminds me of my last wedding. It wasn't very long, disappointing, and it was non-existent. Let's just rather try 4 survivors, and wouldn't you know, we managed to load into a lobby. While I was waiting for 3 other players to join, I decided to look around the options over here. What's in career? My goodness, look at the score set by Eric! How long do you think he had to play to get that score and that rank? He must have been really desperate to play something on the weekends, wasn't he? The U Trials that gives us challenges to complete, which I am not going to do. And customize, and as you can expect, yes, we need to be a certain level to increase our swag. I'm appalled. At least we can customize our helmet and our gas mask. I picked these colors and this mask. I look like a rejected concept for skull candy. So I suppose enough fooling around. I guess it's time to see if we can actually get a game going. I tried out ranked mode because my confidence prohibits me from playing with peasants. And then we get ready. We can pick a map with the right stick and... yes, I decided to dick around with the weapon presets, but I feel like I'm playing around with the Pick 10 system from Black Ops, and by the looks of it, I'm not gonna be getting any of the fancy weapons anytime soon, if ever. So I decided I'll be a basic bitch and stick to the normal loadout. I feel like a default skin on Fortnite. And now we wait. And you're probably wondering for yourself, were we ever able to get into a match? Well, I went to make breakfast, went to the store, took a shit, and still wasn't able to find someone. Am I surprised? No, it's a game that had dead servers on launch, and it still has dead servers to this day. At least you can admire the game's consistency. Sorry, Eric, I'll never be able to catch you now. So I figured since that wasn't going to work, I could at least see what the whole deal was with the single-player modes. So let's start out with the tutorial and do the basic training. I am extremely thrilled to see what counts as basic training at the Umbrella Corporation. Ah, yes. Walking. So if you've ever played a Call of Duty game, I wonder why I'm making that comparison, then the controls are basically the same. You left stick to walk, you right stick to look, click left stick to sprint, click right stick to melee, L2 to aim, R2 to shoot, R1 to grenade, circle to crouch or to go prone, and triangle to switch weapons. But seeing that this isn't a Call of Duty game, what do the other buttons do? Well, you see, L1 makes you take out the pickaxe from the Tomb Raider games as a stronger version of a melee attack, I guess, and then up on the D-pad lets you switch shoulders, and down on the D-pad makes you look behind you, which is completely useless because you can't do anything. And since this is a third-person shooter, we get to press the X button to take cover, as well as interact with things like doors, as well as transform into Assassin's Creed. So this tutorial pretty much only exists to teach you the basic controls. So we get to pop some heads off of zombies who seem to all come out of the ooze, and this is disgusting and not in a good way. Look at the clipping. We go through the rest of the tutorial, we finish it, and there we go, we are done. I should be promoted before I'm even assigned. I'm just that good. Well done. Next up is advanced training, so I'm guessing it's probably just like basic training, except this one is for masochists. Here it basically teaches us how to Gears of War and how to open doors, the most basic necessity in warfare. And yes, I do know I make fun of this, but I'm not gonna lie, this is actually really cool. You can adjust how much you open the door just by moving the analog stick, and you can still pop heads like a little gremlin and also kick the shit out of it. This is actually something I really like because it fits the tone of this game being a tactical shooter really well. And the same goes for shutters and pretty much any interactable thing. I would assume that if the game still worked, then this would have added a huge amount of depth, but then you remember that this is Umbrella Corps, then the novelty becomes non-existent. But I will give credit where credit is due, this is actually a really cool mechanic. And after doing that, we learn ice climbing, and the surface is the zombie skull! And yes, I can confirm that this weapon is melee. And for some reason, we also get to charge this weapon up with electricity, making it all flaming, meaning that this weapon has got something to do with Mjolnir. After doing that, we learn that we can also take zombies as hostages and use them as shields. I really didn't use this because there's really no point, because we're not exactly on the threat of any other firearms, so I'll just walk around with a zombie like I'm a shoplifter who's too nervous to leave the store. Goodbye! After opening these shutters, there we go, tutorial complete. I even got an achievement called the Graduate. Amazing! I'll be sure to put it on my fridge. Well, since we're now a tactical combat guru, it's time to put our skills we've learned to the test now, shall we? So let's jump into the experiment, and for this mission, all we need to do is kill zombies and collect a set amount of samples. Easy! You kill a fucker, they drop the sample, and hear our protagonist comment like he's Bugs Bunny after finding a clock.
Sample obtained. This one's mine. There it is. This one's mine. Sample obtained.
That's not gonna get annoying anytime soon now, is it? So after popping some zombie heads, I collected all of the samples and mission complete. Hell yes, I'm a real Umbrella. Not gonna lie, that didn't go too badly, so let's move over to the next stage, and here we need to collect more samples in the exact same map we were a few minutes ago. Okay, I guess. I finished this mission and then I move over to the next one where we need to collect samples in the same map that we were a few minutes ago. This is starting to become a pattern and I don't like this. What is this, Edge of Tomorrow? After finishing that mission, we go over to the next mission where we need to collect samples in the same map. Okay, what the hell is this? Is this all we're gonna be doing in this mode? Okay, so on the mission select, there's this one mission over here at the top. Surely this will be something different, right? You see, I got my expectations too high because we're just collecting more samples. So what the hell is the difference? I finished this one too and like, wait, what? Round 2? There's rounds now? What the hell is this? Wait, are we supposed to do this 3 separate times? While the amounts of samples we need to gather just keep getting more? Who the hell thought this was a good idea? Oh, I can't wait to do the exact same thing all over again, except extended longer than an anime filler episode. I finished that slog of a mission, and at the very least, we're able to move over to another map. The Trisol building. You know, the one from Resident Evil 5? The boulder one? And do you want to take a wild guess as to what we need to do here? If you guessed collecting more samples, what the hell else would you have guessed? At the very least, this time the environment changes, but really? Do you want 4 walls that look like if you slightly rub against them, you'll need a tetanus shot? Or 4 walls that look not like that? It's just the same shit all over again, just with a different coat of paint. And was this part of the Trisol Labs even in Resident Evil 5? I only remember the giant elevator that was surrounded by people who looked like they wanted to cosplay the tubes from the Matrix. So was this area developed exclusively for this game? Somebody had their hopes set too high, apparently. Alright, I finished that one. So let me guess, in the next stage we need to... what? Defend the point? What the hell are we why are we playing King of the Hill now? I mean, finally, a different game mode, but why the hell only introduce it now? They probably realized the player base was dwindling after the first 5 stages, so needed to slap this band-aid on here. So do I really need to explain how this works? You're all gamers, you should know what this means. Unless you don't like video games, in that case, I like you. But no, you need to sit in this one circle for around 10 seconds, 5 times as the ring that you need to stand on warps to different parts of the stage. We're truly working with some revolutionary game design here. But credit where credit is due, I guess. At least we're not collecting vials of Pepto-Bismol, so I'll take what I can get. So what, are they gonna repeat this same game mode for like 5 different times like the sample collecting mode? No! Apparently now we need to collect briefcases! How does any of this make sense? Who the hell had the time to put these here? Were the people that put these briefcases here the zombies that we're slaughtering now? Umbrella really strives to provide a safe environment for their employees. At the very least, it's only 5. If I had to collect like 40 of these briefcases, I'd be charged for being a kleptomaniac. So now we get to another mission that looks like the hero route from Shadow the Hedgehog, and here we get to do the lovely task of collecting samples in 3 different rounds. I'm really starting to wonder what Capcom thinks of American esports. Also, I forgot to mention this, but the Cerberus dogs are here now too. Why did it take me so long to bring this up? Because I need watch time? But nah, these dogs gave up their window crashing days in favor of being filled with more lead than they usually are. But seriously, they're just basically quadrupedal versions of the zombies that maybe just does a smaller amount of damage and is maybe faster. So why even bother bringing them up if all they serve as is to be an overglorified skin swap? So after finishing the best 3 rounds of my life, my persistence seemed to have finally paid off, because now we're heading to the place that caused this game to suck. The village from Resident Evil 4. I was actually kinda curious to know what they do with the Ganados. Maybe now we'll have some range threats with them throwing us with their axes and shit. These guys are a lot smarter than zombies, so maybe now this game would become a little bit more interesting. I honestly don't know what I was expecting. These are the Ganados from Resident Evil 4, everyone. The most iconic enemies in the entire series, reduced to miserable Walmart shoppers on a Black Friday. And just take a look at the village itself. This just looks like the exact same as the original back in 2005. Yes, 11 years of gaming evolution did wonders to this place. At least they kept the barbecue on. But now we're introduced to the worst part of this game. Birds! These crows just come to ruin all your fun, and they just tend to show up out of nowhere most of the time. Was this a problem in the other Resi games? I don't remember a scarecrow's only friend being this obnoxious. Unless you fuck up in Resident Evil 1's puzzle. This feels more like I'm playing Far Cry 4 with the Eagles, but there's no rocket launcher to at least make the funny. But you know, just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, guess what we have here? Yes, this guy that really loves seafood. This is a stronger enemy. Is there any more depth to the character than that? No! I would advise not setting your expectations so high. Disappointment won't come so easy then. All they are just stronger alternatives to the normal enemies. So that means they get to have a health bar and not anyone else because they're not special enough. And also, they're not just stronger in terms of their health. No, sir. We have a little something called an enemy that can one-shot you amidst all the carnage that you're already dealing with. Oh, why did you piss off, you literal cock? It's now here in the game where I started to sweat, because I was just dying and dying and dying over and over again, and this is where I was truly starting to get scarred. You see, since I am a gamer, I managed to press through. You will die. Now we're in Kijuju from Resident Evil 5. I love the Xbox 360, because you see, I managed to get to one of those missions with the multiple rounds again. And then I went through the mission as I normally would. Also, I do kind of feel like it's worth mentioning now that sometimes these missions with the multiple rounds, they'll cycle between the 3 different kinds of game modes. Does that make it any more engaging or better? Nope, it's just as bad as you think it is. And then I got a little bit overwhelmed, and then I died on maybe the 2nd or 3rd round. But then, when you die on said 2nd or 3rd round, you don't just redo the round. No, because that would be respecting the time and energy from the player. You need to do the entire fucking thing from round 1. Who the hell thought that this was a good idea? Did the zombies that were so mindlessly slaughtering program this game? So what that basically means is you can essentially go through the entire match with no problem at all, only to get to the final round and get blindsided by an enemy that you couldn't see because you'd swear you're giving your character a fucking colonoscopy with how close the camera zoomed in up his ass. Only to then just be sent back straight to the beginning because some of these enemies that you can't see are able to one-shot you. This is legit where I've started to lose it, because I've just kept on dying and dying over and over again, trying out every single possible strategy I can think of to try and push through it all. Yeah, that didn't really help my emotional state, and I feel like it's only appropriate to mention. Do you want to know how long all this shit took me? 3 hours and 15 minutes. I had only hoped that it would get better from here. Maybe the worst was past me now, right? Wrong! All of my remaining sanity for this game finally ended off in one of the most iconic places in the Resident Evil franchise, Raccoon City. Do I even really need to explain? Except the only difference now between all the other maps is that this is the first fucking mission. And I also forgot to mention this, the rounds become part of the normal missions, so you have to deal with all the go back to the start bullshit when you fucking die. And why I needed to highlight the fact that this is the first mission is because guess how long long? I was stuck on this thing. 2 hours and 37 minutes. And you wanna know why this is absolutely terrible? I still haven't been able to finish this mission, and it's the first one at Raccoon City! Now, as much as my manly video game pride prohibited me, I was just fucking done. I couldn't press on anymore. I couldn't take the crappy performance of the game. I couldn't take the bullshit constant respawning enemies that don't even give you a second to breathe and can just blindside you out of nowhere with a single hit. I couldn't take the stupid repetitive game modes anymore. I couldn't take you out to dinner because I'm broke. This game was just too fucking much for me. It all started off as a little haha, this is the worst Resident Evil game in the entire series kind of thing. But by the end, I was left a quivering mess and nothing could ever bring back my happiness. And then John got so sad again, he died. Goodbye. So it's kind of a redundant ending, but can I recommend Umbrella Corps? Yes, actually. Provided you're a YouTube channel trying to make shitposty content or a funny haha review of it, please, for the love of all that's good, do not try and even think about buying this game if you're trying to look for a good time, because guess what? You won't find one. I've literally played so many bad games in my time, but this is definitely up there as one of my top 10. And it hurts even more that this comes from a franchise that is my favorite. For any one of you people that say, Resident Evil Survivor is terrible, Resident Evil 6 is terrible, maybe do yourself a favor and play the actual shit before you start pointing fingers. Those two games look like BAFTA or Game Awards winners in comparison to what I've just played. But still, there's only one silver lining about this entire game. It's at the very least this one last product that Capcom has put out, and then that made them realize that, you know, maybe multiplayer isn't what we should be trying to focus on. And then the year later they released Resident Evil 7, and we all know how that's been. Capcom has at least just been treating this series with the utmost respect and just giving us quality titles. And hell, even this year we got one of the best games of the year, Resident Evil 4's remake. So I can recommend you go and play that. Thanks to this video, I've not even really been able to go back to it yet. So I'm probably gonna go do that. Thank you guys again so much for watching. Please, if you guys have enjoyed the video, maybe consider hitting that like button and subscribing. If you guys didn't like the video, I'm gonna be gifting you this fucking game in your Steam account and forcing you to make a video on it. But again, I've been John from the channel with the freakishly long name. Thank you guys again so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.